We're talking about this on the way over here. It's like this is two of the best shooters of the last 50 plus years basketball in the world, and then you see Steph Curry do this. Like we talked about it at the time, we talked about it with Draymond, and we talked about it at the time when it happened. Of like, just like whoa, like this is almost different than anything that we've done.
It's unheard of. Like he messed up the game in a good way. Like
you think he messed it up in a good way?
Yeah, like he definitely is. I think he hurt the youth because the youth just loves threes, and that's all they think about doing is shooting threes. But you can just see, like in the league, just how we value the 3-point line now, right? And it's not just something that we just look at, as a spacer. We value it at all 5 positions. You need everybody to be able to shoot the 3 because that's a threat. Spaces the floor, be able to create some more drives for your guards. So I think him and Klay and their whole team, I think just changed the game in a good but bad way.
I was telling you before we started, my oldest has become obsessed with basketball, and it's YouTube highlights. Started trading basketball cards, which got me into collecting basketball cards again too, which is a very weird thing. But I take him to the gym, or I take him to the park, 2 or 3 times a week. And the first thing he wants to do is chuck a 3. And he could barely get it there. Yeah. And he has to use a smaller ball, but that's what he wants to do. And I try to explain to him the value of form shooting.
Get up under the hoop.
Get under the hoop. And 10 minutes of form shooting, that's all you need, bud. But you're right. I think everybody wants to chuck threes. You mentioned the sort of evolution of the strategy around shooting and 3-pointers, and how having 5 guys that can shoot is so important. And the Mavs were a great example of that. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons they were able to beat the Jazz and beat the Suns and play with the Warriors. Like they literally just put 5 people on the perimeter and allowed their guards to get in the paint, make plays, finish the rim. Jalen, getting downhill, Luka getting downhill. And I think that's like one way that 3-point shooting has evolved. Yeah. But I was thinking about specifically with you and your sort of development as a shooter, because when I first got in the league, you shot catch and shoot threes, spot up threes, and now it's out of the pick and roll, it's step backs and all that stuff. And I'm curious when you started really feeling comfortable with that part of your game.
It's still growing. But I would say that 2016, 17 year after that year against Boston, it was crazy because the next year John got injured. John got hurt, and Scotty kind of forced me to become a ball handler. And he's like, I need you to play point. I'm going to force you to do it. And I was turning the ball over, getting double teamed, didn't know how to play through that. And so for the first time, I was kind of into this mindset. I was like, okay, I got to do more than just catch and shoot this thing and come off pin downs and, play like that. I got to be able to, come off a high pick and roll and shoot a 3, right? And be able to be that threat that way. And that's when it started. And the tough part about it is that it takes a hit at your percentage. It's a tougher shot, right? It's not like coming into transition, rhythm 3, getting your feet set. Sometimes it's me off balance, like you said, shooting a step back, shooting side steps. It's sometimes off rhythm. It's a tougher shot, but it's necessary in the evolution of your game. And that's a great point. That's what a lot of my threes come from today.
Yeah. Cause from someone that guarded you early in your career, and when you played with John, and this is when John was healthy and at his best, fast as fuck, open court, it was like, where's Brad? It was like, find Brad, especially in transition. And of course I had to chase your ass off screens, and you chased me off screens too. But then later on, and I didn't guard you as much late in my career because I was a terrible defender at that point. I could barely move. But later on, seeing that, having to guard you in so many different actions and developing that way. And to your point about Steph, I think that's where he has gotten so much better. And I think in some ways, James Harden also messed up the game in a good way.
Oh, 100%.
Do you know what I mean by that?
100%.
Because of the ability to shoot threes and ISO.
Shoot threes, ISO, and draw fouls. Those are the 3. right? It's those are two great examples, right? If you're able to be a threat at the 3-point line, like your defender has to respect that, right? You're always jumping. You're always like, oh, I got to get that. And Steph is a great pass and go cut guy. He moves well without the ball, so he doesn't mind giving it up and go. Has a great package, hesitate and dribble. Like he can, he'll hit you with everything. Same with James. And then the ability to be able to manipulate until you draw those fouls. Those are game changers, right? But those are what separate you. And then I think the next level is being able to shoot further out, right? You see Dame, you see Steph, even Trae starting to do it a little bit more, right? If you do that, now, okay, it's like, okay, now it's unfair.
Points, 40 feet.
Now your pickup point is not even a 3-point line. Now we're like volleyball line now. And
have you tried adding that to your game?
Yeah.
The deep three?
Yeah. It's a love-hate thing. It's a love-hate thing for sure. Because it's a crazy shot. It is such a crazy, it's a ballsy shot. It really is.
Do you jump on it, the deep three?
Yeah. But I see it's way more arms.
But that was always my issue with shooting. I mean, I could probably get 3 or 4 feet behind the NBA line, but beyond that, I jumped, and then it just became like short every time.
Sure.
And that's where I always tell I always tell people this about those 3 guys. So Trae and Steph basically shoot a push shot. They shoot on the way up.
On the way up, yeah.
And they shoot a push shot. And Dame shoots it off his palm.
Yeah.
That's how he's got, I mean, look, these guys have
He has a great
strength.
base, too.
Great base. Dame has one of the best bases in the game. But he shoots it off his palm. So he gets a little more distance off that.
Yeah.
So, like, I wouldn't necessarily, like, if I would teach, like, that shooting for him. Because, right, we're taught you jump, you shoot at the top.
Shoot at the top, man.
You follow through, you get elevation. And...
Right.
They shoot different. I think that's what makes them so unique and able to shoot that far away.
For sure. If it works, like Steph doesn't have like the prettiest shot, but it works for him. Like you have a pretty shot. Ray Allen has a pretty shot, like straight. Klay is like robotic.
Perfect.
It's not even, his is sick. But like Steph is unorthodox. Like he'll shoot it any way. And it's like if it comes off his hand a certain way, he knows it's good. Like those guys are like, he's a unicorn. And then Trae's like the same way, like his little push shot, deep range joints. Like it's like, how is he getting it there? And it's cash every time.
Have you tried any of these in the game? Really?
Not really. If I do, it's like transition where I got some momentum going downhill. Like I'll pull those joints for sure. But half court off a pick and roll,
half court off the dribble,
off like 1-on-1. That's tough.
What's weird too with Dame is like Dame's deep threes and half court, he actually just 1-2s. Like there's not like, you come off a pick and roll and I got this from Jamal, but you do it as well. You kind of like throw the ball out there. It's almost like a self pass. It's when the big is in drop, right? You self pass and then you gather momentum.
Yeah.
Or you can hop into it,
Mm-hmm.
which also gives you a little bit more momentum and strength. Mm-hmm. Dame just comes off and he's just like a normal 1-2, like he's shooting from 17 feet.
Like stops on a dime. Your momentum is just driving you downhill and just right into a shot.